I think of sometimes when, I don't know, let's say the Warriors, they were going to win the championship on Friday night. This is so real to me that I'm like, unplug.
Yeah. And we take 24 hours, like Friday night to Saturday night. We take
I don't want to know if they won or lost. Like if I don't literally say I watch different things, I listen to different things, like I treat this day very differently, my brain would just stay in the same groove of, I got to work with that project on Monday. I got to call those people. What are we doing on that? Like, and that's still hard for me to literally stop. I'm done. Walk away. That's a very...
Hi, friend. This is Annette.
This is Jared.
And welcome to our Happy Family podcast.
We're passionate about happy, healthy relationships.
And that only happens with happy, healthy people.
So join us each week as we discuss the ingredients of making your own happy family.
Thanks for joining us. Let's jump in. Hello, Family. Welcome to this really fun episode of the Happy Family podcast. What? I have come to you from, one would think, another place in the world, one that is very warm and humid, which one would say is Georgia, but this is worse.
Oh my.
Let me explain. Jared's office here
is amazing.
It is amazing. It is. However, Jared was like, I don't need no air conditioning in this office. And if there's one thing you need to know about Jared and I actually don't prefer cold. I'm not like, ooh, take me to the Alps kind of person, but I'm also not roast and bake in the sun person. Jared is.
I
the
inhale
heat.
Desert for breakfast.
Inhales desert for breakfast. Loves
desert.
the heat. Get me out here. The humidity, love it. And I'm like...
I'm dying. I'm hot.
I'm dying. I'm so hot. Like, I'll walk in the house. I'll be like, I'm so hot. Can we turn the air? He's like, why don't you cool off first? You've been outside. We're not adjusting the air conditioning. Okay. Anyways, it's like this constant thing. We've been together for over 20 years. But I walked in right now to record this podcast, and I was slapped in the face with the most humid, cut with a knife environment. And Jared's like loving it in here. I am sweating. So if you didn't know, you can watch these episodes on YouTube, the whole thing. Just so you know, if you see me in it and I'm glistening, it's because I am. It's that Georgia glisten. Okay?
That's right.
All right. Anyways.
Thank you, Annette.
Today's topic is one of my favorites, actually.
All right.
Yes.
Let's get it.
Do I say that? I say that every time, and I apologize.
I don't know. This is a
but
really
everything's my favorite. But this, I'll tell you why this is a favorite. It's because this is something that I have done for my whole life, and it is something that has brought me a lot of joy. And I think it's fun to share about it. So a few podcasts back, we shared on one of the things that the longest living people do, and that is garden. And we think you should garden as well. And you've heard us talk many times on why we love it, all the benefits, all those things. And we'll probably talk about some of the other things that the longest living people do, the blue zones, all these things.
I'm trying to talk about it in my newsletter every week.
Jared always talks about stuff in his newsletter. If you haven't signed up, it's linked in our show notes.
Thank you.
But this subject today is one of those things, correct?
Yes, it is.
That has been shown to be done by people that live the longest. Do you want to share?
I would love to.
Okay.
All right, so the first thing, we're going to talk about Sabbath.
Yeah.
Now, usually when people hear that word, they think Jewish.
Right.
They do not associate that with Christian. As you know, Christians, for the most part, as Chick-fil-A has made famous, their day off each week is Sunday. So then people think, well, Sabbath is Jewish. The Sabbath came long before there was a Jewish person in the world. So we're going to talk to you about something that pretty much finds its only origin from the book of Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the idea that, at least the original idea comes from, God creates the world, everything's amazing, humans are amazing, they are naked, they are gardening, all is well in the universe.
Naked gardening.
And then it says, and God rested on the seventh day. And you start to deduce some things. Well, I mean, if he's God, he probably wasn't tired. So what's this about? And it was like this temple in time to enjoy nature, each other, a relationship with the higher power, all these different elements. And creation, specifically creation, I think is a big deal. So Annette and I somehow, we can call it providence, or probably not coincidence, but
Yeah.
we both grew up in houses where every Saturday we celebrated this idea of Sabbath. And it was like a weekly holiday.
Yeah.
And there's not everyone who has that in their experience. I mean, just, it's funny, like ovens have a Sabbath mode. Now that's often
That
linked
is
with
Jewish. Yeah.
Jewish users.
Right.
So it's basically the idea, don't work on this day, unplug on this day, like detach from the rat race.
Yeah.
But Annette and I, we grew up in houses where pretty much every week this day was like a holiday. It was like Christmas.
Like a special day.
And our parents like literally put thought into it all week.
Yeah.
What are we going to eat? It's going to be extra amazing food, extra amazing dessert. We're going to spend time with friends, family. We're going to go hiking. We're going to go play. It's going to be so fun. And yeah, one of the key elements was basically unplug, no work. So you can imagine when Ava every morning now asks me, Dad, do you have meetings today? What day is it? That on Saturdays, she's like absolutely stoked because she knows like, ain't no work happening today.
Yeah.
This is a fun day.
Yeah. And not just like no work meetings. Like we don't do things around the farm really either. I mean, we like see our animals and stuff, but it's kind of the thought of, unplug. And it's crazy. We both grew up the same. It was my favorite day of the week growing up. It was, I think of a lot of food related to that day.
Yeah.
It's for our family right now, for example, Saturday is the day, during the week, our schedules are pretty crazy and we don't routinely see each other. And even though we live close to each other, so Saturday, we know we're getting together. Like we're doing lunch together on Saturday. And so like Wednesday, I'll talk to my mother-in-law and be like, okay, what are we making this week? What's the theme? And you plan. And then Ava's favorite thing is that day because she knows she's going to play. She's going to see her cousins, all these things. And it's really cool to see that there have been studies to show that taking a rest, right, or a day of rest can help you live longer. And that's actual like science backed up things in this Blue Zone study of different like places around the world that people live longer.
Oh yeah, I'll share about that in a minute.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to share some of the like benefits. Okay. Stress reduction, which I will say for me, both of us are go all the time. And for me, when I do my job as, on my phone all the time, on Saturdays, I actually do very well at detaching from my phone. And it's really nice. Like I'm not scrolling or worried about. And most of the people I love and need to hear from or would need my phone, for I'm with.
Yeah.
So it's like, you even leave your phone in the car a lot, right? Yeah. On Saturdays, you don't even
like
check your
phone.
phone.
My face the other 6 days of the week.
Right. So anyways, stress reduction, I think when you're not as in that work mode or environment or people needing you, I mean, stress is going to be reduced, right? Engaging in regular downtime as exemplified by like a Sabbath rest can significantly lower stress levels. So that's really cool. Improve physical health. There was a study done by the University of California that found that regular rest and detachment from work is linked to lower rates of chronic diseases such as hypertension, cardiovascular disease, all of that, and are exacerbated when there's a continuous stress and lack of rest.
Yeah.
So if you're like overworking, not resting, not doing all those things, those diseases get worse. But if you take like some time off, those get better. Enhanced mental clarity and creativity. Neurological research has shown that rest periods contribute to better brain function, including enhanced creativity and problem-solving abilities. That's fun.
Yeah, love it. I was just thinking that when we go on vacation, like, I'm going to use the word a bastard Sabbath.
Sounds dramatic. I don't know what that means.
So basically, this book I'm reading, it's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Fantastic book. This guy talks about why you got to get rid of your screens, stop waking up to the news of the world. It's not even news anymore. It's just all propaganda and all this stuff. Like you can get into the rat race of the world and just be stressed.
Sure.
So the idea of like, don't work on Saturdays, like what? Why would I not? Like, to stay ahead in the world. But he kind of brings this idea out, quoting, I think the guy's name is Eugene Peterson, who originated it with, most people treat it as a bastard Sabbath. Like, it's not real. You're still on your phone. You're still doing errands. You're still playing catch up.
You mean like when people say they take a day of rest?
Yeah,
they're
like,
not
come
really
on, that's
taking
not
a day
really.
of rest.
That's just a catch up day.
Gotcha.
And it's not a real, like what
rest.
What we believe we were literally created to experience, which is this weekly holiday, unplugged, detached from the world.
Gotcha.
You're not going to die.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go broke. Okay, so here's the cool thing.
There's a quote. Let me read this quote.
Yeah, go for it.
It's really good. It says, "The Sabbath is a time to pause, refocus our priorities, and find peace in the midst of life's busyness."
Yeah, I love that.
It's cool.
Totally love that. Yeah, it's so foreign.
I'm actually going to say something real quick. I
Yeah.
was just thinking when we were talking about like growing up and what we did. And so when I was in school, I also took the Saturday Sabbath rest literally to the point that I didn't study on Saturdays. So it was like, even if I had a big test coming or whatever, I just thought, you know what, this is my day to like rest and spend time with, like however we do it. And I didn't study either. And I actually always felt more at peace going into tests and things. And I think some of my roommates and friends, I think, thought it was crazy. Like, hey, you take the weekend to study or work or do whatever. And it was like, no, I'm okay. And yeah, it's just interesting.
That's pretty good. I've only told a few people this story, but I would argue Annette and I are together today because of this idea of Sabbath.
Oh, interesting.
And in college, one of the things for me was like literally unplug. And I've tried to take this through life. Like, no one is getting my dollar today. I'm not going out to eat. I'm not going shopping. Like, unplug means if the whole world did this, I wouldn't be forcing someone else. Right. You got to keep working while I enjoy my day off.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. So when we got to college, that
was pretty serious for you too.
That was pretty serious for me because I was raised that way. And it was just a special day. And I remember, it's one of those things like the heavens opened and the light shone down on you like, ah. And Jared was like, hey, do you want to come over? I'm going to make lunch on Saturday. And I was thinking like, what is this? And all my friends are going out and doing stuff that day or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And I realized very early on, I mean, this is a few weeks, right? Into school, that you did the same thing on Saturdays. And so it was a bonding thing, I think, because all our friends were doing other stuff that day and we were doing it how we always kind of did it. And so that was cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I can't take credit for this. I saw this video and I took the guy's information because I thought it was so interesting. And he basically breaks down the 5 blue zones in the world where people live longer. Those were founded by Dan Buettner, National Geographic. They found these places in the world where people are living to 100 more than anywhere else. And not just 100 and decrepit, but they're hiking, they're biking, they're playing tennis, they're playing pickleball, they're playing golf. Like, these people are active, happy, and healthy at 100 plus years old.
That's awesome.
The American Blue Zone, based in Loma Linda, California, they found this one to live about 11 years longer than the rest of the American population. Not just longer, but stronger, happier. So then they starts to break it down. The average lifespan in America is 77 years or 28,105 days in a lifetime. What if someone took a vacation every single week? So this idea of what if you took every Saturday? Oh, and another interesting rabbit hole is go down the circumceptan rhythm. We can't really find a reason for the 7-day week. You can find it for the rotation of the sun argument around the earth. You can find it for all these other things of 365 days and 30 days and the moon cycles and all these things. But 7 days, why? France tries to do away with it. In the revolution, they go crazy. People go mad. 7 days, there's something to it. Well, they've started to find, like, in nature, there's a 7-day pattern. Okay. That there's not many places that you get the idea of a 7-day cycle. What if you took a vacation every week? Once every 7 days throughout your whole life, what do you think happens with longevity for those who enjoy this weekly vacation? So then he goes down the mathematics rabbit hole. He says, if you take that average life of 28,105 days, and every 7 days, someone takes a vacation. And they treat that day like a vacation. They unplug from all the notification. They spend time with friends or family, outside in nature, eat amazing meals. If someone did that once a week, you would see someone who would have taken 4,015 days during their 77 years as a holiday or 1 day per week vacation, right? And then he starts to go down, but here's the idea. This group of individuals in this blue zone were the only ones whose longevity was not confined to race, ethnicity, or a specific demographic, like the Okinawans or the Sardinians. You could be black, white, Hispanic, Asian in Loma Linda, and you get the same benefits. Huntsville's another one that they're starting to do homework on. The only common denominators were that they lived in Loma Linda, Southern California, and took 1 day per week as a holiday, which they called Sabbath, to reflect on, celebrate the beauty of creation, nature, humanity, and cherish community. And then he gets, this is pretty cool. If you take those 4,015 days and divide them by 365 days, you get 11 years. The exact amount of time this blue zone, called the Seventh-day Adventists, lives longer than the rest of the American population. In other words, by taking 1 day per week to celebrate this Sabbath as a day of recreation and celebration of life, they end up living 11 years longer than everyone else.
Wow. Like just by doing that.
I mean, obviously,
there's other things,
using the data.
Yes.
Yeah, there's other things, but
wow.
Pretty cool.
So then I wonder, like, if you go down more, and so you do that, plus do the gardening, plus eat the healthy diet, plus do the things all the other ones do. Does that give you a little extra?
I mean, the science would argue
right?
that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But it's not easy. So I think some people who hear this would say like, well, yeah, it must be nice.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. I mean, it
It's
takes a lot of
sacrifice.
intention. We have to think about it all week. What are we doing?
Yes.
What's the game plan? How do we prepare for that? Because otherwise, and I'll tell you another argument. When I used to preach, I remember I had a sermon on how you can lose the blessing, the joy of the Sabbath on Monday. And the idea is if you race through your week, and just think of if you were going on vacation on Saturday and you just crash into your vacation, your flight, you're sleeping on the plane, you get in the taxi, they take you to your amazing hotel on the beach, you go to your room and you fall asleep. What a waste of vacation. And for a lot of people, they're racing so hard through life that they get to this idea of Saturday or Sabbath, and it's like, I'm exhausted, I'm going to sleep all day. And you lose that thing. So it really becomes this like way of living where you're slowing down, you're being intentional. How do I live this day so that I can get the greatest blessing out of that day? Unfortunately, a lot of people, I think perhaps seeing it through a Jewish perspective, have thought of it as like very much, you have to do this or else. And I think one of the reasons is like, this is one of the 10 commandments about the seventh day of the week, Saturday being the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And it's the only one that starts with remember, which I think is you're going to run yourselves into the ground if you forget to take a day off every week.
Yeah. Like remember, like it's there for you to take.
This is for you.
It's like a gift. Like, hey.
Yeah, exactly right.
Right? Made this
exactly
for you.
Right.
It's like a birthday party every week to remember creation and that you were created and take a day off.
And for a number of people, I don't think they've enjoyed it like that. It's been more so, I gotta do this. It's like, I gotta take a vacation every week. Well, if you feel like you've got to do something like that, becomes stressful.
Yeah.
So
maybe it could even start like if this is a super foreign concept to someone, at least for me, or, sometimes just going black or white or cold turkeying something, it's really hard. So why not just apply like certain things and see, like no social media on Saturdays. Like take that as a step. That's a big deal for a lot of us, just to say, I'm not going to be on my phone, or I'm not going to check the news. Like, I'm not going to be, up to date on everything on my phone 1 day a week. So say Saturdays, I'm not going to be on social media. Take a break. That's good for all of us. Like, no one's going to argue and say, oh, it's terrible that you're going to be off social media for 24 hours. Like, no, that's proven to be a good thing, right?
Yeah, and I can tell you when we get a lot of people together, like, it's definitely never, this food is not as good as the restaurant. It's, oh my word, if I could eat like this is
right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and so, the thought, maybe instead of like going out to eat, why don't you ask some friends over, have some people over, make it like, hey, Saturday's our day to do this, Yeah. It's little things where I think we have, in our very fast-paced world, we have to be intentional.
That's right.
You have to make the decision, we're going to do things different. It's the same, thought when you decide, you know what, I'm going to choose to garden certain things versus buying them from the store. I'm going to choose the concept of saying no to a lot of things because that means saying yes to other things in my life. So maybe saying no to some things on Saturday can open up your world to a lot of things. More time with family, less stress, all those added health benefits we talked about, and more years to your life, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
In the world we live in, we're not healthy. We're not, let's admit.
That's right. And it's an absolute rat race right now. So yeah, I think you just shared some good points. Like for us, I think of sometimes when, I don't know, let's say the Warriors, they were going to win the championship on Friday night. This is so real to me that I'm like, unplug.
Yeah. And we take 24 hours, like Friday night to Saturday night. We take
I don't want to know if they won or lost. Like if I don't literally say I watch different things, I listen to different things, like I treat this day very differently, my brain would just stay in the same groove of, I got to work with that project on Monday. I got to call those people. What are we doing on that? Like, and that's still hard for me to literally stop. I'm done. Walk away. That's a very difficult thing that does take learning.
Yeah, well, it's difficult for all of us. And I think nowadays more than ever, because, for example, like we said, our phone is such a quick access to all those things that constantly get our brain thinking about something else or stress us out or, all these things. So I would suggest if, you do one thing, start with that. Start with no social media on, Saturdays. Take a break. Rest your brain if you can. Rest your body. I think I really feel in my life, and for me, it's been, something that as a child I did, but as I've grown up as an adult, I've really learned to appreciate and apply it to my life. I feel like when you take that time to be intentional and unplug and do that day of rest, you will find more reward later in the week. Even though there's mountains of to-do lists and there's always something you could be doing, you'll never regret taking that time, to be with family, to unplug, to take that day of rest. So,
that's right.
I say try it.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't hurt to try it.
That's right.
So yeah. I don't think we have to say more about it.
No.
I think we said enough, right?
That's it.
Okay. So we'll leave it at that. There's a few more things that people do, those longest living people do, that we'll touch on as well, which I think are really cool. So we'll cover those in some upcoming episodes. But for now, thank you for listening. Sign up for Jared's newsletter because he does cover a lot of these topics. We're grateful for you listening. We're grateful for you being here. And we will be back next week.
Sounds good.